The Bible actually teaches, if you look at it, that kind of adamance and advocating for yourself.
Yeah,
but for some reason, and this is where culture always comes in with religion, women are not taught that it's okay to do that.
So I think a lot about what does it profit you to, why are you reticent to self-advocate? And I think a lot of it now ends up in, to some degree, like the male gaze. So if random people think you're pushy, it's fine. But if potential romantic partners think you're pushy, what happens to you?
I hear that.
And so I do think it's why it's very rare to see, in my opinion, single female pastors.
Yeah.
In high positions of authority.
Especially if they're a little bit older.
Because there's the assumption that leadership does not translate in a domestic scene properly. And so you find that a lot of churches are very reticent. They don't want to block your own blessings. So they're like, sis, you know what? You can be a teen pastor. You can be a head of department.
Yeah.
You can be a deaconess.
No, I've
you can be a junior lead.
Yeah.
But all of a sudden she marries and everybody just starts calling her pastor.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? Nothing has changed.
Yeah.
She hasn't changed the way she dresses, the way she speaks. Even the frequency with which she speaks at church doesn't even change. But now all of a sudden everybody is happy to call her pastor. But I do think like that cultural worry and the nuance has entered the church and just the world at large. So it's why I think a lot of women are worried or anxious about self-advocacy or asking for more. It's just like if your culture sees leadership in an interesting way.
Yeah.
The likelihood of you advocating for yourself, because you hear women using words like greedy in the workplace. You don't want to ask for more money because you don't want to be greedy at work. That's not
like this is not a context.
But so many of us were raised to see this as sin. Being prideful, being greedy, like those were sins, and having too much ego. All of that was seen as sin.
You're supposed to be humble,
modest. That
was
And like I said, I'm still figuring out what is the balance, because I still do see the virtue of humility.
100%.
I also don't like people that I feel are just prideful, especially when there's something to stand on. But what is that balance? I think is something I'm still figuring out personally.
I think for me, the difference is, I always say there's Nigerian humility and then there's the actual like genuine, I'm not a prideful person.
Yeah.
But what I think culturally is the performance.
Yeah.
Of, I'm bringing myself down. But it is a performance. You are doing it. That's why people care so much about who greets who.